more continuous basis, so that which allowed also for extensive presentation in civil society that participated in hearings and so forth. For instance, in Macedonia, as it was already mentioned, the technical assistance given by the European Commission actually enabled the provision of adequate expertise for the preparation of this document. It also facilitated the wide-ranging civil society consultation on the design of the document. For instance, 380 civil society organizations participated, and several broad-based public debates were organized. So it is important to know that the whole process of drafting of developments that would include civil society needs strong support as well. So to go to challenges, of course, as it was mentioned before, strategies are nice, but they need to be implemented. So the political will is sometimes missing, but also very concrete further legal and practical measures. So it's not just a strategic document that says something about the principles or the value of involvement of civil society, but some immediate measures that actually enable the immediate involvement of civil society. So to go to these more concrete measures for involvement of civil society in policy making, to go to the acts for instance, that say something about consultation or public access to information, which is the basic prerequisite actually for involvement of civil society organizations. Then these documents normally set out the minimum standards for access to information and participation in public policy making, and they are either specific documents or bylaws that were found in practice that set out minimum standards, for instance, in most development in Croatia, then in Bosnia and Herzegovina. But there are also cases where this wider legal basis ensures actually participation, such as in Albania, Kosovo, Macedonia, and Serbia. So, for instance, this wider legal base would be, of course, law on access to official documents, to information, but also constitution, law on government, for instance, law of parliament, also strategies for cooperation between civil society organizations and government, but also laws on self-government and talking about local level participation. For instance, apart from those legal bases for cooperation and specific acts that are in place in municipalities, for instance, there is some municipalities have also set up structures for cooperation with civil society organizations, and also some have formalized agreements on cooperation between local government and civil society organizations. And for instance, in Macedonia, in bigger municipalities, that there are cases, for instance, in Skopje, of strategy for cooperation with civil society organizations, or in municipality of Kharkov, the strategic action plan for cooperation. So all those strategic frameworks are also agreements with civil society, as well as structures also exist on the local level as well. To go, of course, to the challenges, there are many that were shown throughout the study of specific cases. For instance, what normally happens is that even if there are specific rules, either on national or local level, these rules are insufficient or are actually implemented poorly. So For instance, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, even with the provisions of the rules on presentation in legislative drafting process, it should be one of the more advanced instruments for involvement of civil society in the decision-making process. It was found that, and reported by the civil society organizations in Bosnia, that those provisions have been applied only on rare occasions. And to the contrast to this, and to illustrate the importance of implementation of such rules, for instance, in Slovenia, where we have also this rule, and actually the government is obliged to consult the public, and it has 30 days minimum time frame for the consultations. And if those provisions are not fulfilled, then the drafts of legal acts can be sent back, actually. And what is happening is that the Ministry for Public Administration, which is actually monitoring this process, was actually sending back as much as 30% of the legal drafts. So it shows the importance of actual implementation of the provisions that are also in place in other countries in the region. So to go to further challenges, of course, some of those legal acts can be also ambiguous and can also undermine the essence of participation to policy and decision-making processes. For instance, the recent law on lobbying that was adopted in Macedonia actually may prevent the greater involvement of civil society actors in the policy making, for instance. But what is most evident, of course, throughout the region is that there is a lack of comprehensive mechanisms for implementations of those legal provisions when they exist. And of course, also enforcement of those legal provisions. And looking at the coordinating mechanisms or structures that are in place in the region, there are several models of these structures in place. Government offices, for instance, for cooperation with civil society organizations that are in place in Croatia, Macedonia, and Montenegro, are in charge of strengthening this cooperation between civil society organizations and other public authorities, and are also coordinating the involvement of civil society organizations with other bodies or other ministries, and have this coordinating role in this dialogue, for instance. Of course, the Croatian government office for cooperation with NGOs that was mentioned before is seen as a model for many in the region that are still striving for the more developed structures of this that are supporting the civil dialogue. So in the region, and there are several cases of these standalone government offices that have a central role in this dialogue. For instance, in Macedonia, in Montenegro, and also most recently, as it was already mentioned, in Serbia, a government office for cooperation with civil society is on its way. And another model then, apart from the